Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Rick Troy, and I serve Calvin as the Director of Alumni and Community Relations, and it is good to be back with you again. Last spring, we started doing these Facebook Live events when we all were working remotely. Took a break over the summer, and now we're back, and we're starting to tell some alumni stories and interviewing interesting alumni around the world. And so we're going to be getting to our first alumni interview in a moment, but we would like to at least let you know about a couple things that are going to be happening through the Alumni Association with Calvin in the coming weeks. So first of all, before we get to today's interview, I want to remind you that we have Homecoming Family Weekend coming up. And because of the situation, we are not having visitors to campus right now to keep the students safe. And so we're going to be doing some virtual programming. It's all going to be on our website. We'll put a link to that down below in the comments section. But we encourage you to sign up for the Calvin Classic 5K and the Youth Run. You can run wherever you are, and we'll be sending you a t-shirt, bib, and sticker for participating. So make sure you check that out. So we're interested in hearing from you too as to what other alums you'd like to hear from on Facebook Live. And so if you've got ideas for that, please share them in the comments below. But for now, we're going to get to today's guest, and I'm excited to be here with 1992 alum Marc Evan Jackson, Marc with a C. You might recognize Marc from his work on popular shows, including Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Babysitters Club, The Good Place. Marc also hosted The Good Place, the podcast, and is the co-founder of the Detroit Creativity Project, which we hope to talk a little bit about today, too. So thanks for being here, Marc.
Thank you for having me. It's nice to see you.
Well, and you too. So if you've got any questions for Marc, go ahead and leave them in the comments, and we're going to do our best to get to them. We did see some of the comments that were already posted yesterday after we posted about the interview, so we'll try to incorporate some of those as well. So, Marc, I'm just wondering, to get things started out, can you tell us a little bit about your career path after Calvin?
You want me to briefly summarize the last 30 years?
Yes, exactly.
It's a long story, so make yourself comfortable. Briefly, I graduated from Calvin with a BA in philosophy with minors in political science and environmental studies. So naturally, the day after I graduated, I was a deckhand on the schooner Malabar in Grand Traverse Bay up north. And I did that for that summer, and then I moved back to Grand Rapids and was living with some people I graduated with. And I was working at, I think it's Mangiamo's now. It used to be Gibson's, the old mansion on Lake Drive. I was doing that, and then I sailed another year out in Maine the following year, 1993, and then came back to Grand Rapids after that and held a number of jobs. I worked for Gibson's as a server, and then assistant manager, and then manager. And then after that, I worked for On the Ton magazine. I sold advertising for On the Ton magazine. And then I worked for WGVU AM and FM as a producer initially and on-air talent.
Excellent product
placement. And then from there, early on in that time, probably in the like 1994 range. When did River City Improv start? Somewhere in there?
Yeah, 1993. Right.
Three?
Yeah.
Fairly soon after you guys got started, I was asked to come play the piano for that, and then started improvising with you as well, and knew from that moment that that's something that was a real aha eureka moment for me of like, this is something I want to do, not just for fun. Like, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And so through that, and then the Second City touring company from Detroit came through WGVU. They were doing a fundraiser or something, and we had them on the show when I was the producer for Bill Freeman's morning show. And so I said to the producer, like, if you ever hold auditions, please let me know. And a few months later, they did. And Mary Jane Porres and I auditioned and were hired for the touring company. She is an actor and me as a musical director. And so I went and did that. A few months into that, was hired to be the main stage musical director. So I left Grand Rapids for Detroit. Was there until the very beginning of 2001, and then moved to Los Angeles then. And then began the arduous and infinitesimally gradual path to where I am now.
Yeah. Well, so did you overlap at Second City with Kip Vandenheuvel too?
For sure. Yeah. Kiff came and I think was in the touring company, and then replaced not me directly, but was on main stage after I was on that.
Yeah, I was trying to remember how that whole timeline played out.
I always think that I'll like, oh, there's no need to write it down. You'll remember this forever, and that is false.
Right. But no, it's been fun to sort of see you popping up all over the place ever since you moved out to LA, and just sort of seeing the success that you've had out there. It's been great. So one of our Facebook followers wrote that I love how the roles that Marc has portrayed have a sense of intelligent humor, and then added that they would love to hear you talk about how you use humor to communicate truths.
Oh, interesting. Using humor to communicate truths, I suppose, to take the second part first, is that's really the writer's job, I think. Like, there's an element of that you as the performer can bring to it, to find grounded moments, and even in the absurd. I mean, plenty of the things that I do are playing actual people, but at the risk of spoiling it for some, like on The Good Place, the dude I portray is not all the way great, and to find some humanity in that, I think is the goal as well, so that you're not playing, cartoon evil. You're finding some highs and lows within this person, and even some rootable qualities in the actual devil. But a lot of that starts on the page. That's the writers who find these grappling hooks to reality and relatability, and even a sense of empathy that make you not just overtly hate a character. Like, I think you have to believe that any character, including the actual devil, is capable of change and growth. Otherwise, what's the point, kind of thing. In terms of
redeem everything,
What's that?
You're trying to redeem everything.
Trying. Yeah. Trying. The intelligent comedy or whatever that I bring to the role, I think, you may be being fooled 50% by a deep voice and sweater vests, but I do think, I don't know, I often say that the characters I love to portray are often dumb guys with big egos. Like, I like people that, are assailable, people that feel like they're in charge, but, briefly, mildly behind the curtain, they are really defensive and weak and, frightened. And I think I find that funny because it's so close to home. I mean, I think that's most of us. And, we're all improvising our way through life. We're all kind of faking it, kind of thing. And, that's something I think that you realize maybe just after college, or as you get into, your 30s, where you're like, oh, there are no grown-ups. Like, we're just older. Like, nobody knows the answer. Like, we're doing the best we can and trying to, be the best versions of ourselves, to be the best people that we can be. So yeah, you've been fooled by bow ties and sweater vests and a deep authoritative voice. Because I just dress this way. I'm not.
Yeah. You've always loved the sweater vests,
Big into it. I've always been big sweater vest.
Kip Vandenheuvel has joined us online too, and he says,
"Hey, buddy,
what's up, guys?" So, shout out to Kip. So,
what's up? Well, get a pen, Kif. There's a lot going on. There's fires and earthquakes, a global pandemic.
In your house.
Yeah.
So, so you talked a little bit about the characters that you like to play, but do you have a favorite one that you played so far, and what made it great?
It's any actor just wants an opportunity. So every character that you play is your favorite character, I think, at that moment. But I've had an embarrassment of riches. Like, I say this from time to time too. I'm not entirely certain that I'm not, hooked up to tubes at Butterworth Hospital, and that this is all an elaborate coma. Like, I've gotten the nod to do some pretty cool stuff. Which has been great. It's I think various things are favorites for different reasons. Like, I was in the movie Kong Skull Island in 2017, and that was a different experience, and even an experience that more seasoned actors that were on that movie were like, remember this forever, because not all things are like this. We were gone for 6 months. Like, we were in Hawaii for 3 months, we were in Australia for 2 months, and in Vietnam for a month. And it's, camp with movie stars. It's, when we had our company move from the Gold Coast of Australia to Hanoi, they chartered an Air New Zealand wide-bodied jet, and you're playing trivia in the seatback screen with Goodman and Sam Jackson, and it's weird. It's one of those things that you're like, this can't be my life. So that movie was fun because we, shot guns and flew in helicopters and were all over the world forever and ever. But the portrayal of Richard Spear in The Babysitter's Club, I play here again, I play a stuffy, burdened, fearful person just trying to wrestle the universe into his control. Having met with some entropy earlier, he's a person that, faced not great circumstances and is trying to avoid those moving forward, and trying to, pave a way for his young daughter. And that's certainly a highlight. If you haven't watched The Babysitter's Club on Netflix, it's worth it. I am in every measure not the expected target demographic of that show, but I love it. It's based on a series of books from the 1980s by Anna Martin, and that were seminal for, I think, primarily girls at the time. But now it's, the audience has widened, and they've been expertly updated for the 21st century, and it's really smart and thoughtful and inspiring and inclusive and representative and wonderful. And I play the widower dad of one of the primary characters named Marianne. And it's fun to, again, find those highs and lows. At first, he seems really stuffy and evil. And then you see some cracks in the ice, and he, I don't know, you should see it. It's really wonderful.
Don't give away too much, but I'm only 2 episodes in.
Oh, really?
Yeah. My nieces told me I had to watch it, so.
Watch Marianne Saves the Day.
It's kind of funny because my nieces are all following you on Instagram, and so it's.
I'm big on the gram, yeah.
It's huge.
But then I, also a spoiler alert on the Good Place. I play pretty much the head of all demons, and how often does one get to do that? So, yeah, I mean, that's certainly a wonderful role. Kevin Costner on Brooklyn Nine-Nine is another favorite. I mean, it's impossible to choose.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten several people who are wondering about your time at Calvin. How did you end up at Calvin, and did you have a favorite class or professor?
Oh, wow. I wound up at Calvin because I grew up in a Christian family and was didn't really have a lot of direction going into college. I think I had played so much music, studied so much music growing up, that a lot of people thought that I would study music, that I would major in it. And I had just stopped taking piano lessons when I was a junior in high school, starting at age 6. And it became so much more fun when it wasn't a job, that I was like, I don't want to, ruin this again. It just became fun. So I did play French horn and percussion through the band and orchestra at Calvin. And I play the piano and various things, but I didn't want to study it, and I didn't really have a lot of direction. Also, I think I was very frightened about the world, what was out there, and the notion of going to SUNY Geneseo or, some big state school was really frightening. So I looked primarily at small Christian colleges, and I looked at Houghton College in the southern tier of New York, Gordon Barrington outside Boston, Geneva in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, and then came to Fridays at Calvin last. And all those other schools were pledge schools, meaning that you had to sign something saying you wouldn't drink, dance, or smoke while enrolled at the school. And none of those, aside from dancing and I guess smoking a pipe from time to time, really impacted my life at the time. But it just seemed like bad faith. College is when you should be drinking, dancing, and smoking, or at least, learning a little bit more about yourself and not having sworn under penalty of ejection that you won't. And so all those schools, Houghton, Gordon Barrington, and Geneva were all pledge schools. And then I can remember driving on campus through that middle road, and on butcher paper across the front of Boltines Timber, it said all campus dance tonight in the field house. And I was like, this is different. And I think just by virtue of Calvin being a larger school, the others were like 1,200 students. It just felt like there was more life there. And I'm from Buffalo, New York, Amherst, New York, and there wasn't a CRC or RCA presence there at all. It was a denomination I was completely unfamiliar with. But it just seemed like more of the student life, the social life, was bigger and more, open-minded towards people failing and learning and that sort of thing. And so that's how I chose that. I had a friend, a guy a year older than I am from where I grew up, that was going there too. So I stayed in his dorm in Rooks Van Dellen for Fridays, I think, and spent the weekend and got a little bit of a feel for it. And then came to Calvin in '88, and we were the first people to live in Karlsby-Huizinga.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It was brand new. So much so that like when we got to school, I remember stopping in the provost's office, like right across from the, what's that house when you come in off Burton? Is that by the Sem Pond? Is that the?
Oh yeah, the DeWitt Manor.
Yeah. We came into like the main offices there, and we were like, where is Huizenga Hall? And they were like, we don't know. It was that new. And but I lived on the second floor of Huizenga with my roommate Al Lammers my freshman year. The second year I was on the third floor in the quad with Dave Huizenga and Conrad Bacher. Then I lived in Zeta 5, I think, Zeta 4 or 5 junior year. And then senior year, I might have this backwards. I think I lived in Beta 5 junior year and then Zeta 4 senior year.
Where Conrad was the first person we asked to actually play the piano for River City Improv, and he said no, you should ask Marc. He
called me, yeah. He was like, I don't want to do that, you do that. And that truly changed my life. I was at that first rehearsal in is it called the green room? What's that big tall room behind the CAS?
Yeah.
FAC, what's it called? Fine Arts Center?
Yeah. Fine Arts Center.
I can remember being and watching you guys work for like 10 minutes, and I was like, oh, good heavens, this is it. Like, this is using intelligent sweater vesty comedy for good. Playing to the height of your intelligence, agreeing, saying yes, being optimistic, showing up with energy, working with others, like all those things that make improvisation the magic that it is.
Yeah. So you've done a lot of work outside of acting as well, and I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about
Schooners
Creativity Project. I know you and your wife have been very big in that and co-founding it, and I think Beth is the executive director now. And
my wife and I started the Detroit Creativity Project back in 2012 because when I lived in Detroit for those 3 or 4 years, Detroit is a special place. Detroit has a life and a vibe to it that's palpable. And in those 3 years, despite having grown up in Buffalo and living in Grand Rapids for 8 years, 8 or 9 years, like in those few years, Detroit became my home. Like it was being at the Second City was like graduate school in comedy and graduate school in life. And when you do this work well, these become the best friends of your life. I jumped on a call with River City Improv a few months ago during quarantine when you guys were doing trivia, and it's like no time has passed. I mean, these are forever friends kind of thing. So the city of Detroit is wonderful and in need. It's a city that has been largely neglected and has lots of problems. There's been tons of issues with graft and things. So at the time in 2011, when Detroit was facing what would become the largest municipal bankruptcy in American history, we were looking for ways to give back. And the mayor, Dave Bing, at the time, was saying to everybody that he came in contact with, like, come to Detroit, invest in Detroit, open an office in Detroit, come visit Detroit. And so my wife, Beth Hagenlocker, and I were looking for ways to give back. And I know hundreds of Detroit expatriates that live in Michigan expatriates that live in Los Angeles now. And so we had a bunch of our friends over, actors and directors and musicians and writers, to come over and go, what should we be doing to give back to Detroit? And the common denominator for all of us was improvisation. The thing that made us all successful in what we're doing was this art that we had all studied there, worked towards getting better at there. Because in order to improvise well, you do need to listen to others. You need to agree with what's going on. The foundational principle is yes and. You say yes to what's happening and you add on to it. And you have to collaborate and you have to listen and respect what others are doing and get on board. You can't be a wallflower. You can't go, that's not how I'm doing it. Like either you succeed together or you fail together. And you fail a lot. And it teaches you that failure is not a lasting condition. Failure is not fatal. And so it's a really like confidence building, fear erasing, empathy building, teamworky thing that just is such a great thing. And so we realized that we had such a foundation there still, like all of our, tons of our friends still live and work in improv in Detroit, that we determined immediately we should be teaching improv in the public schools. So since 2012, we've been doing that. We teach middle and high school students in Detroit the art of improvisation, which is, just a life-opening, world-embiggening life skill that anybody should do, whether you have any hope of ever being, funny or on television or on stage or whatever. It's for everybody. Like it's such a good head skill, and truly you will make the best friends of your life. So we've been doing that since then, and we've seen unbelievable success, not only in the teaching of this and the fun that it is, but we were part of a 3-year study with the graduate department at the University of Michigan, and students who at the beginning of a 10-week program, a 1 hour per week, 10-week in-school program, self-identified overwhelmingly for things like social phobia, social anxiety, and depression. And after 1 hour per week for 10 weeks of practicing this mindset of, getting on board and collaborating and allowing yourself to look silly, there was a 40% reduction in social phobia, social anxiety, and depression. So it's clinically meaningful. It's so much fun, and it's world opening. Like it really does take you from it teaches you are already equipped with everything you need to make it through your day and to make it in the world. And it for me on a personal level, what improvisation did was took me from being kind of a know-it-all that was saying like, I don't know what you're talking about, so please don't share any more of it with me, to going, I don't know what you're talking about, and that doesn't make me bad. That doesn't make me dumb or weak. I don't know what you're talking about. Fill me with all your knowledge. Like, tell me everything about this. And that's just a 180. Like that just changes everything about how you make it through the day and how you see a group of strangers. Like they are not your enemy. Those are your future best friends. And it's the greatest thing in the world. We one anecdote that I often share is that it's not a perfect situation, but we were hearing from some teachers that one not great thing that they had run into is that students who had skipped school that day had been caught sneaking into the improv project because they found it meaningful. And it's not a perfect circumstance, but I'll take it.
There's worse things they could be doing.
You're here. Yeah.
Well, we'll put a link to the Detroit Creativity Project in the comments below so people can
please, yes.
More about
dcpimprov.org or detroitcreativityproject.org. Please do check it out. It's I'm proud of it. It's pretty great.
Well, I know you come back like in a normal circumstance and not
normal circumstances. Is something going on?
If one were able to travel, you might be coming back to Detroit from time to time to do an event over there. So
yes, in the before times, we were back and forth quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those were the days.
Wear a mask, won't you, please?
Oh, yeah. My mom's been making them, so I've got plenty of masks. And I know, like, I've been on campus several times, too, and I know, like, the students are all just, they're taking it seriously. So it's good. It's been good to see. But so what keeps you grounded, Marc?
What keeps me grounded? What keeps me grounded? From an ego perspective?
Well, just like, yeah, in life and yeah.
Oh gosh, the universe, the overwhelming gravity of the universe. No, I mean, that's not hard. Like, sometimes, I mean, I'm visible. I'm out there. There's an element of my life that is that of a public figure now. And it's great. Like it's fun. It's something that I miss, frankly. I miss fans. I miss people in airports and restaurants. I miss airports and restaurants. I miss people in airports and restaurants. Stopping me to say that they find the portrayal of Kevin and Holt meaningful. That they find the hopefulness of The Good Place meaningful, that they've that it's opened conversations with their kids about ethics and morality and what being a good citizen on this planet looks like. I miss all that stuff. So but the notion of being like a celebrity or famous is just I don't think that'll ever feel like a thing to me, because my trajectory here has been so gradual. I've been in Los Angeles nearly 20 years. So, it started very small and I'm thankful for every bit of it. But like keeping me grounded is, I don't know, there's no version of this that I can see going to my head. I think that's sort of my Midwestern upbringing, to begin with. I think that that's just sort of ingrained that, don't get a big head about it. I will say this though, like it's, I think Hollywood and life is a bit of a dichotomy. Like it's a bit of a yin yang, or there's a balance to it. Like you definitely have to believe that you belong. You have to believe that you are worthy of being on these shows or having this job or being on that stage or whatever. So I suppose that's a bit of ego. But you have to maintain, humility and thankfulness, because again, there are 1,000 people behind you that can do what you do. Like ain't nobody special. Like, there are plenty of people that would kill to be able to do half of the work that I've been able to do. So, that was something that I recognized on working on Kong. There were some younger actors on Kong that were like, we're up a mountain in Vietnam and they'd be like, this Wi-Fi is slow. And it's like, shut up. Like, come on. Like, we flew here on Vietnam era helicopters. Like, yeah, the Wi-Fi is slow. Yeah. So you do get put in your, I don't know, like the universe, I think if you get a big head, will tamp you down. I'll give one example also, just about like the level of my fame, or what you want to call it. I was in last year. I was in Austin for the ATX festival, and was in the lobby of a hotel, and I just met Lauren Ash, one of the stars of Superstore on NBC, and we were about to go get in an SUV and go to a panel, and we had just met and we were chatting, and I felt a woman walking past me in the hotel lobby, clock me and recognize me, and she came over and kind of came over Lauren's shoulder and said, "Excuse me, I just want to say, like, I appreciate your work, and I saw you on this, and I'm a fan, and whatever." And like this very measured, like polite thing. And then she turned to Lauren, who she hadn't seen yet, to say, like, "I'm so sorry to interrupt." And she saw Lauren and she, "Oh my God," and burst into tears. So like that, I think, is a thing that you like realize that's the balance of the universe, right? Like she recognizes me. Very sweetly wanted to share that, the shows I'm a part of are meaningful to her. That's wonderful. She saw Lauren Ash and exploded into sobbing. That's the relative nature of fame, and I don't know, like also the people that I work with, like, how could one not be grounded? How could one get a big head when you're hanging around with, Kristen Bell and Ted Danson? Like, I'm a skinny, scrawny, shy wallflower from Buffalo, New York. Like, there's no reason to think anything different.
So when I started watching The Good Place and seeing Chidi and him talking about philosophy, I thought about you and being a philosophy. You were a philosophy major, weren't you?
Yeah. I mean, ish.
Yeah. Well, I think you even house sat for Nick Walterstorff, didn't you?
For several years, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's not how you learn philosophy.
That helped you in your role. What's that?
You don't learn philosophy by house sitting for the no reporter.
Just booze.
No. So I'm one of those people for whom this is not a great advertisement for Calvin College University. Like, I did go to college. I was there the whole time. I have a diploma, but I'm not like a college. Again, don't be fooled by the sweater vests and tweed. I don't read well. Like I read very slowly. And so when I read something, I have it forever. But college was hard for me. High school was hard for me. Like I'm a person that maybe should have taken a gap year and found some more direction. I mean, it seems to have worked out, but like maybe found some more direction before going and spending big money and being away. An undeniable value of being away at Calvin for me was, the social aspects, the life stuff, the independence and the on your own and, making choices and having to live with the circumstance, the outcomes. But like school was hard. I nearly failed out my freshman year because of candles and tea. Like I'm a very aesthetic person that was like, I need to set the perfect stage in my dorm room to study. And then it's like, well, the tea got cold. I should make more, or this candle's going out. So like I didn't learn a ton of philosophy. I mean, I sometimes say that I got a good education there despite my efforts. Like I'm a person that, my wife is a person that you could lock in a library for a year and she would come out with all knowledge. If you did that with me, I would build the coolest fort from those books, but not read a single page. Like reading is frustrating to me. It's not the way I learn. If you show me and we talk about it and we do it together, I could be an astronaut. But like, I don't think it's an intelligence issue. I just think it's a pathway issue. So college was hard for me. So I didn't learn, I didn't come away with like a gigantic knowledge of history. Things that I resonated with, Kierkegaard especially, like are things, and the, religion and theology are things, I learned a lot at Calvin about that sort of thing. But school was hard. So there's no bright line that can be drawn between my getting the role as Sean and my BA in philosophy. I every once in a while I'll crack something. I'll come across a book from college and crack it and be like, nope, still don't have it.
Well, I remember when I started at Calvin, my grandpa said to me, he said, "Don't let your studies interfere with your college education."
I suppose that's true. Yeah,
you can learn a lot outside the classroom. So.
For sure. Yeah,
and you're great in air band too. Like you finally got to dance and you were on stage and
some of my best work.
Yeah,
that's the answer to your earlier question. That's my favorite character.
We did
Groove is in the Heart by Delight for Airband in 1992.
Yeah, probably right around then. Yeah.
Oh, so let me frame it this way. I put more effort into that 4-minute performance than I did into 4 academic years at Calvin College and Seminary.
Well, fair enough. Okay, we probably won't use this on the Fridays promo or anything like that, but
I'd open with it.
So, are there things that where are you drawing inspiration from these days, and are there things that you'd want to recommend to alums to check out?
Truly, the Babysitter's Club on Netflix is something that, despite my being a part of it, is legitimately uplifting and hopeful, and I think it's a great thing for kids of any ages. I mean, Kristen Bell said during my birthday party a couple weeks ago that her 7-year-old is watching it, and I've heard that being said by a lot of people. The girls portrayed in it are like 12 and 13. But I think it's aspirational younger. Like it, from a demographic perspective, it skews younger. So I would certainly look at that. I find my wife asked me about this the other day. I think I've been playing in the background just as I'm doing things throughout the day, things like Parks and Rec and The Office, because I find those to feel like hanging out with old friends. I was never on The Office. My voice appears on The Office in one secret thing. But that world just, it's the sort of Mike Schur universe of characters who are real and flawed and great and terrible, being great and terrible to one another, but, at their core, sort of loving one another. And it just feels like hanging out with friends. Like those are shows that I, truly just have on as comfort fuel kind of thing. And then music. I on occasion will go down a rabbit hole of, a particular era of jazz, or there's a song in the finale of The Good Place called Spiegel im Spiegel by Arvo Pärt. And it's a very simple duet of piano and either viola or cello. And I have multiple versions of that. And I find that enormously meditative. Like, the world's on, a red hot garbage fire right now, and it doesn't seem to be cooling. And my brain is evil. And, when I'm trying to go to bed at night, I think about, all the, selfish, self-serving, arrogant comments on Facebook and everywhere, from people who just, it's sort of that age-old meme of like, I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about other people. And my brain sets to worrying about everything, as soon as the light on the nightstand goes off. And I do find that things like that are a bit of a balm, not, maybe a brief escapism or what, but I do think it's necessary because, we as a people, we as a nation are headed down the worst of all possible roads. And there just seems to be so much of a chant of, so what? I got mine. And it's really troubling. So I do think that, music has been an outlet for that. We just did some new landscaping. We planted some ground cover, and to water that has been fun for me. Just to like put water on new plants and think about growth and hope and what's possible. Wear a mask, won't you please, everyone?
Totally. And I've been propagating plants during the pandemic too, and
have you?
It's been hopeful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think that level of slower pace of a different tempo. When we planted, my wife and I, one of the few times that I've left this house or this area has been to go get a garden box and a raised planter thing and plant it. And when we're putting in seeds or tiny little cuttings, like, it's like, well, certainly this won't turn into anything. And here we are all these months later, like eating from it on the regular. I do think that eases the pain of waking up every morning going, wait, we're still here. Yeah. It's just another day, exactly like yesterday. That's the hard part about. So I find myself frustrated and on occasion bored, and then have guilt about being bored because there are people out there doing the real work. There are frontline workers, and there are people growing the food and delivering the food and doing all the things to keep us up and running. And I'm so thankful for all those people. But it's still, I think, legitimate to realize about oneself that, like, it's okay to not feel great. Like, what gives me life in the before times, in normal circumstances, is creating work, is creating comedy. That I think the arts are not extra. The arts are not some extracurricular add-on thing that if there's time or any money in the budget. Like, the arts are vital. I mean, if you think about what people have done during quarantine to keep themselves emotionally afloat, it's music and television and video games and all that stuff. So that's what, creating that stuff is what gives me life. Hotels, restaurants, airports, airplanes, meeting fans is something that I legitimately miss. Not as a feeder for the ego, but like, it's really wonderful to share something with strangers that will, cross a room to come and tell you, to go, remember that moment when Chidi talked about the waves? Do you remember the episode when you were locked in the safe house? Like, it's, super specific moments that are meaningful to people. And I can't wait to get back to that. I can't wait to see all of you again someday soon.
Yeah. Well, I told you, I know you went to school, or your time overlapped a little bit with Pastor Mary, the university chaplain, and she's got a question for you. She was wondering if you could give her Amy Poehler's phone number so they could immediately become best friends.
The question is, can I?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can.
Okay, great. We'll let her know.
The will I is a different question. I can tell you that you would love Amy Poehler. You know, I suppose not to a person, but like the bulk of the people that I've worked with are legitimately wonderful. Like, I did a thing. So for the Detroit Creativity Project, we've done gigantic fundraisers in the past where we've rented out a 1,700 seat theater in downtown Los Angeles at the Ace Hotel and had the cast of the Good Place come, and we improvise, and people like Kristen Bell tell stories, or Jamila will tell stories, and then the rest of the cast, Darcy Carden and Jason Mantzoukas and Mary Beth Monroe and Kirby Howell Baptiste and I, all of them, will do these, do like an Armando or an ASCAT set. And it's so fun, and it's been so meaningful to the Detroit Creativity Project as a fundraiser. And obviously, we haven't been able to do that. And so about a month ago, I reached out to everybody and said, "Look, August 21st is my 50th birthday. I haven't been able to fundraise for the DCP because there have been other things to fundraise for in the short term, frontline workers, Black Lives Matter, like all the social justice things that have been going on that took a precedence. The arts is social justice, and we do need to keep the DCP moving. And so everybody agreed to come to a virtual Zoom hangout for my birthday with my friends from work, and like everybody said yes. And it was just amazing to be able to hang out with the babysitters and the cast of The Thrilling Adventure Hour and the cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and the cast of The Good Place. And, you would really like Amy Poehler, all of them. Like there's.
Well, I was just reading the New York Times the other day, and they had an interview with Ted Danson. He mentioned that he had just been on a Zoom call for your birthday party. So
did he really?
Yeah. And like,
I was in the New York Times?
You were in the New York Times, yeah. And I'm like, oh, it was Marc's 50th, and I don't think I even wished him a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Marc. So
too late.
All right, fair enough.
That's remarkable. This is the proof that I'm in a coma, right? Ted Danson talked about me to the New York Times. That's not real. That's not real.
He didn't use your middle name. But.
Really? That's funny. That happens from time to time. That people will refer to me as Marc Jackson, and it just feels strange at this point. Yeah, it was on WGVU that became a thing. That's Marc Evan Jackson is my the name I was given at birth. But when I was sort of segueing from being a producer to more of an on-air talent at GVU, I remember calling home to my parents and saying, like, I got to come up with a name to use on air, because plenty of those people don't use their real names. Kind of a stagey name. It was Kevin something from the Traffic that all of them used names that weren't their own. And I remember on one of my typical, when I went away to Calvin, Sunday nights became the time that I would call home, and my parents and I would chat. And I remember, far way after Calvin, calling my parents on a Sunday night and going like, it looks like I'm going to be hosting a show on GVU, so I got to come up with my name. And I remember there was just this pause, and my father was like, "What's wrong with the one you were given?" And I was like, "Okay, all right, yeah." So now to leave out, the middle name just feels sort of funny here and there.
So I had someone on Facebook say Happy 9/9 Day. I didn't even.
Thank you. Yeah, 9/9.
Yeah. Didn't even really realize that when we scheduled this. So, and then a lot of other people just want me to ask you what's good.
Oh, that's so nice. That's wonderful. That's a reference to The Good Place, the podcast that I hosted for NBC and Universal, which is a really wonderful experience. Like I, sort of like you guys calling Conrad Bacher to come be your accompanist. NBC reached out to Mike Schur and Morgan Sackett and said, "We want to do a podcast. We want you to do a podcast about The Good Place." And they were like, "No, we don't know. We don't want to do that." And so they called me, and I was like, "Yeah, I can do that. Like, if you let me do it how I want to do it, I'll do it." And they did. I had a wonderful team with Lizzie Pace and Trey Booty and Grant Rudder, and Grant and I had a handful of calls beforehand, and I was like, I want to open the show this way, I want to close the show this way, I want to close the show by saying, now go do something good, and before we finish, I want to ask each one of the guests what's good, and I always told people, like, it could be anything. It could be a gigantic overarching concept or a charity that you want to support. Or I think one of our casting directors, Ben Harris, said, like, my niece's laugh. He had like a baby or toddler niece. People did things all over the map, and just a chance, an opportunity to focus on something affirmative, something positive, again, something gigantic or something super teeny. And I think for me, what's good is empathy. I think what I'm finding is that we have to look through the eyes of others. It's so easy, in real life times and normal times, to get mad at that other person in traffic or whatever, and you just don't know what they're going through. You don't know where they're coming from, and you don't know where they're headed. And to take a breath, and yeah, what they did may have seemed, selfish or aggressive or terrible or what have you. And I fail at this on the regular. Like, this is something that's, a daily practice. But here we are in these times, I wish more people would slow down and view things through other people's eyes and say, what can I do to feel what they're feeling, to help, to, not meet force with force, kind of thing. We need to be better to each other. And I don't mean that as anything approaching a both sidesism. I just mean that, care about others. That could be you. So many of us, all of us, are, products of the accidents of our birth. Like, we were born into these circumstances, and some of us have it different and better than others, and we have to work to change that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks, Marc. I ended up talking to you a lot longer than we were planning on, so I appreciate
fooled you.
Time. But I mean, you don't have anything to do or anywhere to go anyway, so
I really don't.
Just got some gardening to do, some plants to water, maybe.
I do. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks, Marc, and thanks to everyone for watching. It's been great talking with you, and we'll be back in a couple weeks with another live interview. So let us know if there's someone you'd like to hear from. Don't forget to sign up for the virtual 5K and our homecoming and family weekend festivities. And then this Friday, September 11th, Professor Jamie Smith will be participating in an online conversation through the Trinity Forum about his book, On the Road with St. Augustine. So we'll post a link down below for more information on that if you're interested. And thanks, Marc. Say hi to Beth for us, and take care. And thanks for spending some time with us.
Will do. Thanks, everybody.
All right. See ya.